I think it's fair to say I spend too much money on watches. And it's a weird thing to spend a lot of money on. Like, my friends and family definitely think it's weird. But they're also these beautiful and worthwhile items that are worth putting some real money towards. So if I was starting my watch collection from scratch, here's what I would buy first. In each section, I'll have affordable options, mid-priced, and quite expensive options. So hopefully there's something for everyone, although keep in mind when you get a little bit too deep into watches, your idea of what is affordable is very skewed, so please don't judge me. Please don't judge me. Starting with an everyday watch. This is the most important watch in your watch roll, the watch that is easy to choose, goes with everything, the daily wear. If you want to have only one nice watch, one expensive watch, this is the place to put your money. For me, my everyday staple is the Rolex Oyster Perpetual, but honestly, there's a lot of not Rolex alternatives that are just as good. Choosing a Rolex is just a great way to communicate, I shouldn't be trusted with a credit card. For an everyday watch, I like something in stainless steel. It's a very durable material, something I can dress up and down. I like some water resistance, between 50 and 100 meters of water resistance, and something not too crazy in design language. Some say this is a boring watch, it's vanilla, but it's not boring, it's classic. There's a reason why vanilla is the top selling ice cream flavor. It's classic, baby. So for under £100, something like the Casio MTP series if you want a round case shape, but for the most classic looking Casio, I'd go for something like the A158W. For under £500, the Citizen Soyotza is fantastic. Or there's the Tissot PRX, around £300 for the quartz variation and £640 for the mechanical. For something pretty sporty, the Full Metal G-Shock is a really cool daily wear, absolutely indestructible, and retails for £450. If you can push the budget as high as £1,500, Longines is fantastic. I'd recommend the Flagship, really classic looking watches, beautifully executed, and available in a variety of sizes. Moving up the price points, we have something like the Tudor Black Bay fixed bezel, which retails for £3,450 for the 39mm variation. We've got Nomos Glashütte, the Club Sport, absolutely love these, £2,680. Or something like the Tag Heuer Carrera Date for £2,800. I feel like the Carrera Date is under talked about for how awesome it is. If you also want to communicate that you shouldn't be trusted with a credit card, the Rolex Oyster Perpetual or the Explorer are great starting places. Really plain, minimal, and a great entry point into the brand. But if you don't want to wait, the Santos de Cartier is a far more interesting choice, amazing heritage, great specifications, and costs about the same. Now, if you've got some real money, if these Rolexes are looking too cheap for you, something like the Parmigiani Fleurier Tonda, or the Vacheron Constantin Overseas. The Overseas is a bit sportier, even something like the Ingenieur. Once again, a bit sportier, but still go anywhere, do anything. Now, speaking of things we use every day, food. And this is where today's fabulous video sponsor, HelloFresh, comes in. Life is busy. Between family, work, exercise, trying to be a somewhat present friend, I find preparing meals and cooking can take the back burner in my life. And this is what HelloFresh fixes, baby. If you're not as familiar with them, HelloFresh is a meal kit service with step-by-step recipes and fresh, pre-proportioned ingredients delivered straight to your door. They have so many amazing options. You can choose from 50 delicious weekly recipes put together by chefs. I've never been a picky eater. The only thing I'm kind of funny about is cilantro. It tastes like soap and you can never tell me otherwise. But for the picky eaters among us, HelloFresh has got you covered with their Build-A-Plate meals. You can choose your own toppings to suit your specific tastes and made to please everyone. On top of that, HelloFresh has options for carnivores, vegetarians, flexitarians, calorie counters, and more. If this sounds like something you need in your life, click the link that is in my description and subscribe to HelloFresh. It's quick and easy, and make sure you use my link so they know I sent you and they want to keep working with me forever and ever, because I absolutely love what they're doing, and I love recommending them. So thank you so much to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. Next watch I'd be getting if I was starting my collection again from scratch is a tool watch. Now, I'm going to try to stay away from the word sporty because I'm not sure this is exactly what this watch should capture. I would be getting a watch that serves some kind of function. Most of the models I like happen to be sporty, but I'd be looking for something that had a real point of interest. Maybe it has a dual time complication, or it's a dive watch or a chronograph. A watch that meets some kind of function or purpose. Starting with something affordable, Casio is always a great place to start. Maybe something like the Duro, a fantastic dive watch under £100, and can often be found more around £50. Once again, this is where you can plug in your G-Shocks. I like the colorful, crazy resin case G-Shocks, but if you can afford a full metal, this would be my personal preference. But my personal favorite affordable GMT is the Seiko 5 GMT. I own this one. I love it. These are more expensive, so they retail for £420 or about $500 USD, but it is completely worth it. This is an automatic movement, great looking, honestly, an absolute gem of a watch. If you have a bit more money to spend, Hamilton is always great. Something like the Intramatic Auto Chrono, Longines, maybe something like the Hydra Conquest, and if you can really stretch the budget, the Longines Spirit Zulu Time, it's something else. It is expensive, but it is so worth it. Around this price you can get a Tudor, and this is where Tudor particularly shines. Pelagus 39, Black Bay 58 GMT, Black Bay 58, Black Bay 41, which is also MEDAS certified. Now, if we had a bit more money to spend, £12,000 or below, I mean, Rolex is the best. Rolex, in my humble opinion, Rolex really stands out at their price point. They're still ridiculously expensive, don't get me wrong here, but it's hard to argue with Rolex. The GMT Master 2 is amazing, the Submariner, but the most tool Rolex has to be the Explorer 2, so dual time complication, completely brushed steel, and an easier Rolex to get nowadays. Omega is also fantastic, the Seamaster Diver 300, and for a chronograph, the Speedmaster might be the most iconic choice, and this year they've really upped their game with the return of the first Omega in space, and the Speedmaster Professional now available with a white dial. Grand Seiko, if it was me and my money, I'd be getting the GMT Elegance SBGM 221, beautiful GMT. I've also got a real thing for Breitling, the Breitling Top Time. I think these are fantastic looking, retailing for about $8,000 USD, or of course, the icon of Breitling, the Navitimer. Never a bad choice. Okay, so you've got your daily wear, you've got your tool watch, you've got something you can bang around, you've got something with a complication. Now it's time to get a dress watch. So when I first got into watches and got into watch collecting, I did my list the other way around. My first watch was a Cartier Tank Solo, then a Nomos Tanganta for my everyday watch, and then a Tudor Black Bay 58 as my tooly watch with a purpose. But even though I wouldn't recommend getting into watches the way I did, my Cartier Tank still met a lot of my needs. At the time I worked in retail and I dressed up a lot, so the Tank was perfect for my everyday life. I think there's this giant misconception with dress watches that you can only wear them dressy or for special occasions and they don't look good with anything else. I love the way the Cartier Tank looks with sweatpants, or really casually with jeans and a sweater. I think a lot of watch collectors and people who are really into watches pigeonhole dress watches in a way that's a little bit silly. People like to pretend that they're out diving every day and they have this crazy adventurous lifestyle, when actually you're probably going to restaurants a lot more than you're going wild camping or doing crazy helicopter snowboarding. But that's a rant for another time. Honestly, I think dress watches are the most fun category, and this is the direction I see my collection moving more into. For something affordable, maybe something like the Orient Bambino. These are under £300 and they look way more expensive than that. The Seiko Presage is the same. Really affordable, mechanical movement, and looks more expensive than it is. Something I should have mentioned far sooner than this point of the video, but we'll mention it now anyways. Going secondary rather than buying new is a great way for saving money. And there's a lot of dressy vintage watches. A vintage Omega Seamaster can be found for under £500 and looks fantastic. Now, moving on to my favorite price point, if you can spend a few thousand. The Cartier tank. This is where my watch collection started. It looks great on men and women alike. And I still believe there is no better dress watch out there. The quartz or solar beat models are around £3,000 for the larger models, and that's a lot of money. That's a lot of guacamole to spend on a watch. But honestly, the tank is never a bad choice, and it is possibly the most iconic watch ever. Going secondary, vintage IWC, maybe something like this. Neo Vintage Breguet. I keep saying it, but it's true. I am going to buy a Neo Vintage Breguet in the next couple of years. Vintage and Neo Vintage Vacheron, even Vintage Audemars Piguet. Like, going secondary, you can enter the holy trinity of watchmaking for a lot less money than people think. Now, if you've got some real money to spend and you love your dress watches, my first stop would be Patek Philippe. I mean, this is them. Complications, beautiful watchmaking. My next stop would be FP Journe, probably a chronometer souverain. I won't bore you all by talking about chronometry, but it's cool. A Longo und Zona, amazing watches. Vacheron, of course. But that's keeping it mainstream. If you want to get a little bit more weirdo, a little bit deeper into the rabbit hole, maybe a Laurent Ferrier. Look at this. Classic moon silver. Yes. Or Remy Cool. I've been keeping my eye on him for a few years now. He's amazing, obviously, but I think these next few years are going to be huge for him. For me, these dressier watches are where I see my collection going and moving towards. I think I've had quite enough stainless steel sports watches, probably a disgusting amount of stainless steel sports watches, and I'm kind of ready for more weirdo neo-vintage dress pieces. What I really want is something like this. A Breguet Classique chronograph, Le Monnier movement. But for £20,000, that's a bit high for me. More realistically, a time-only classique. But I'd still be over the moon to own something like this. But anyways, I am rambling. This is what I would do if I was just starting to get into watches. This is what I would do if I was starting my collection again from scratch. I'd love to know in those comments down below what your list would be. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Well, I always hear about the disagreements, but let me know all your thoughts in those comments down below. Thank you to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video, and don't forget to go click that link in my description. And now, Pope tier patrons, get their names on the screen. Come on, you fabulous people. Oh my goodness. Names on the screen. They are the Pope tier patrons. They are the people who keep the lights on here at Gringa HQ. Thank you so much to the names on this screen. Thank you to all tier patrons. You're all gorgeous, amazing, fabulous, of course. But this portion of the video, no. It is for these names. Thank you so much. I hope you keep enjoying my content. I love making it. And hopefully this channel keeps being enjoyed many years to come. Okay. Thanks, guys. Bye.